I'd like to call this May 6th work session to order. At this time, before we start our regular meeting, would everybody please stand? Let's remember Al Cardisco, who passed away and was buried this morning. He's a former councilman and a Democrat committee man for as long as I can remember. He's a great guy, and he's truly going to be missed throughout the borough. Please be seated. Okay, the first thing we have on the agenda this evening is I'd like to introduce Bruce Akabuchi, who's the president of First Federal Savings and Loan, and he has an announcement he would like for Bristol Borough Council and all of the residents that are home watching the meeting. So Bruce, if you want to speak into that.
Gotcha. First of all, thanks for having us here. Second of all, thanks for having the borough be a customer of First Federal for now 5 years. I said to Ralph earlier today, it's the fastest 5 years I can recall, and we've enjoyed having you as a customer, and I hope we've been servicing you up to the expectations over the last 5 years. The second reason we asked to come here tonight was I've announced my retirement as of the end of June, and we have named my successor, Gene Coyle, who is our current Executive Vice President. Gene's been with the bank for 6 years, has done a great job, has been a right arm to me for all of that period, and I think she's going to keep the bank going in the right direction, which is growing profitably and serving the customers of the borough and the lower Bucks County area. So I'd just like to give Gene the floor for a second.
Everybody, thank you. I'm very, very excited. It's really an honor to get this position, which, as I said to Bruce, is a temporary position. The bank was here before we got here. That's right. And if I do my job well, the bank will still be here when I'm done, many, many, many years from now, I hope. I've been in banking for over 30 years. Back then, they let tellers start when they were 10 years old. I really expect to run the bank as a local business, and I hope to partner with many of you as residents and businesses as well. We are doing very, very well. We've been fortunate. We're conservative, but we're steady, and we're here for the long haul. So I really hope to do business with you in the future, and thank you very much. The only difference you'll see is Bruce didn't carry a purse. So
Yes, he did.
I've got to
He never showed
I've got to get rid of that.
That's my back pocket.
Right. But thank you very much. I was here 5 years ago for the vote naming us as the bank, and it was exciting then, and it's a great honor now. Thank you.
Okay. Next thing we have is Nick Lally, and I don't know Nick, who's Al. And, Ralph, if you want to go up and talk to council about the arch.
My name is Nicholas Lally. I am the commander of the Robert W. Bracken American Legion Post 382, located here in Bristol Borough. Recently, our post was informed that the Grundy Library wanted to apply for a grant for the historical artifact. The focus on this grant application is the arch that was made in 1824 to welcome General Marquis Lafayette, welcome him to visit Bristol. Then in 1929, the arch was presented to the Robert W. Bracken American Legion Post 382. It now hangs here in the Borough Hall. Since the arch belonged to the Robert W. Bracken American Legion Post, the request was brought before our membership at our April 2nd meeting. There was some concern that the arch would be moved. Bob Tosti, our representative of our organization, met with Borough Manager Jim Dillon to express our concern and to assure him that the membership agreed to have the Grundy Library apply for the grant, but also to ensure that the arch will remain in the Bristol Borough Municipal Building. We respectfully request that a written agreement be drawn up by the solicitor and assigned by the borough representative and the commander of the Robert W. Bracken American Legion Post 382, stating that the arch will remain in the Bristol Borough Municipal Building and will not be moved without the written consent of the Robert Bracken American Legion Post 382. Thank you. Any questions?
No, I agree 100% with your organization. We appreciate the arch hanging here, and I don't think anybody would ever have any intention of moving it. It's part of this building. But I don't have any problem, I don't think council does, with having the solicitor write up this agreement.
All right. Thank you very much, Ralph.
Thank you. Okay, now we have people from our rink authority to give us an update. Bruce, Joe, Jenny, Bob, I don't know who's here. Come to the podium, please. Bruce, you're by yourself.
And where's your posse, man?
Okay, I'm Bruce Harris. I'm chairman of the Bristol Recreation Authority. Currently, we are holding our own. We're above board, barring any major malfunctions. With the leadership that we have with Mr. Dillon, we've cleaned it up. We've gotten rid of a lot of waste. It's running very smoothly over there. Keeping that in mind, we'd like to make this presentation to the Bristol Borough Council. We have a check here, Ralph. Would you...
I will definitely accept the check.
This is for the services that the borough helps out with. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pardon me? Just so everybody understands, this check, the authority is now, I think, turned the corner with the leadership of our borough manager and the board that they have there, who's doing an outstanding job. And like Bruce said, they made a lot of cuts and they did what they had to do to turn this rink around. And this check here is for the amount of $60,000 that goes into the borough's thing to... This will go into our general fund, which will balance the borough's budget. And again, we had no tax increase because of everything coming together with this. So, Bruce, I want to thank you and your people for sitting on this board. I know how much time you put into the rink. Mr. Dillon, deposit that tomorrow. Make sure it don't bounce. Okay, this time I'm going to open up public participation. Anybody on this side of the room would like to... Hold on, sorry. We have our architectural review board here, I'm sorry. Who's making the presentation?
I know you all have black and white copies, if you'd like to just give you a colored copy.
Thanks, Bruce.
My name's Richard Murphy. I'm chair of the Bristol Borough Historical and Architecture Review Board. And you have some black and white copies of our final draft of the Borough Design Guidelines. These pretty much follow the Pennsylvania Museum Historical Commission and the National Trust for Historic Preservation Guidelines for redevelopment of properties. These are just a guideline. Each applicant is heard individually, and although we'd always like to see a rotted cornice replaced with a wooden cornice. It's not always financially practical, so we work with the property owner. There's so many materials out there now that are replicate the fabric of a historic property. And like I say, we'd like to see them, replicate what they can. Just the other night, we had a applicant wanted to put a aluminum black fence up that replicated wrought iron, which we approved, as well as spindles and porch posts for a railing. And it was a PVC, but, to the passerby, it looked just like, it should. And other than that, there's also guidelines for signage on Mill Street. We'd like to see the streetscape, protected. We don't want to just see signs thrown up all over the place. We'd like to have, them be in consistency. And also, there's porch furniture in the guidelines, which I know we have no control over, but we don't want to see PVC chairs for $2 thrown up there on a porch. We'd like to see wicker furniture or whatever that looks good.
I agree with that sentiment about the porch furniture, by the way.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Don't start, come on.
From my own experience, I know you guys put a lot of time into this Architects Review Board, and you do a great job, and you donate your time to do this. So it's something that council, everybody had this in their packets, will adopt this at the June meeting, their proposal, and I'd say just keep up the good work and keep, everything you guys do just makes our town look a lot better.
Can I just quickly comment? I think that most of the residents don't understand this is one of the examples of volunteerism. These guys put a tremendous amount of work into preserving the historic nature of the historic part of town, and it's not an easy job. I've had to go before the Historic Review Board a couple times for different, either to support a constituent who was looking to do something, but I mean, even this presentation, it's beautiful. I saw the black and white rendition, but I wanted to really see the color. You put a lot of time and a lot of energy into what you do, and we as a historic borough owe you a debt of gratitude. My only other comment is, and I know it's something that I've talked to a couple of review board members with before, I don't know how we as a council, and perhaps going forward, we should discuss how to enforce. The Architectural Review Board is an advisory board only, and it puts them at a clear disadvantage because they can't enforce it. And I just think it's something that we ought to try as a council to look at. I know that we have to sign off on, is once a month we get your approvals and your suggestions, and we sign off. But I think we ought to see if maybe going forward we can find some way to help these guys. They go to all this work, they make all these suggestions, improvements, approvals. Sometimes people aren't happy with them well, it's true, when they come back with maybe a denial. But I think perhaps we as a council should talk about doing what we can to give them a little teeth. So thank you to all of you. You do a great job.
Yeah, we're not here to impose a financial hardship on a property owner. We realize there could be a lot of money. You want a slate roof replaced in time that could cost several thousands of dollars, and but we'll work with the property owner, and we realize we're a recommending body that you guys have the final say. So.
But you've been very fair, though, I think, and I think you listened very, very clearly to what the applicant requests, and I don't think that you're unfair at all. I think you're always look at all sides of it, so.
Rich, I don't know if Robin or Regina, I don't know who's back there, Sally, Joe?
I see Regina, I see Sally,
There's several board members
I don't know.
here. I'd like to give a special...
We did receive a grant to read through the guidelines.
That's why I was just going to ask Robin. Robin is here. I'd like to give a special thanks to her for, she compiled all this information.
I thought you meant me.
No.
I got panicky, I'm thinking, no, I didn't.
To say a little bit about Friends and Friends and the grant, and that we did receive grant money for publishing this, and...
I'll
did this as an internship for a historic preservation certificate program I was in. And it was a grant from PHMC. Sorry, I didn't want to block out. Right. It was a grant from PHMC for the landmark towns to do the new design guidelines. And I did it as an internship project. And the only thing that I'd like to say is, yes, they do a great job. It's very difficult to try to get across to somebody that you're trying to save the architectural features of a historic district, but it is important because I just think some people realize how much we have here and some people need to be educated. So the guideline is a guideline. It's not verbatim. There are suggestions, but Harb really does a good job at trying to work with everybody. So it was kind of fun to do. It was a lot of work, but I think it's well worth it. I think it's really detailed, and it's accessible online, and we will be able to add to it. It was a program designed by Friends and Friends architectural firm in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and they were very helpful in helping me along with the publisher program, so it was a learning process.
I know you did a great job.
Thanks.
Beautiful,
Really.
Robin,
Thank you.
really.
And I hope you did good with your internship
I did.
also.
I graduated, so
Right.
now I need a job.
Thanks for all your help. Okay, now we're going to public participation. Mr. Pinelli. State your name and address for the record.
Greg Pinelli. I am the athletic director of Bristol High School, and the reason I'm here tonight is to invite the council and the town of Bristol. Next Tuesday night, our varsity boys baseball team will play at 3:45 against Holy Ghost Prep, but more importantly, at 5 o'clock we have our Green for Gene game, and that will pit Bristol High School against Truman at 5 o'clock at the field. And then at 7, Pennsbury will play Neshaminy for a share of the Suburban 1 National League Championship. Also, I'd like to thank the council, the mayor, the borough manager, everyone involved for what you did over at the fields. You know, you've made my life easier as an athletic director, but also I would like to say I had 2 teams come to our softball complex and compliment me for the scoreboard. They said it's not a generic scoreboard. It's hometown, welcome to Bristol Borough, historic Bristol Borough. They were proud they played on our field. And I'm proud that you people in this room put that board up and made the fields what they are today. I'd like to thank you, and I welcome everybody. Please come out Tuesday to support our Green for Gene game.
Next Tuesday, that is, right?
Tuesday, May 14th. May 14th.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Please state your name and... Go ahead, Jason, go ahead. We'll go back to her.
Jason Grisalia, 583 Linden Street. I just have a couple questions concerning the Pico property on the corner of Mifflin and Linden. There's 20, I counted before I came, there's 20 100-gallon drums of, I have no idea what's in it. And you go on the website, and I mean, it doesn't tell you what's in them, what they took out, when they're going to move them. I mean, they've been there for 4 months now. So, I mean, do you have any idea what's in them?
I'll find out and get it.
We'll get an answer back.
Okay. And just a couple other questions regarding that property. Where the grass was between the one home and the substation, that there's now 2 transformers there. There was grass, now there's rocks. And Pico had told us that they were going to replace them rocks with grass once they were finished. And they're not going to, I mean, when people come, they say that they're not working over there anytime soon. And they haven't dug over there in 2 years now. We have any idea what's going on with that? Because here's the thing. There's kids, obviously. We were all kids at one point. See rocks, we're going to start throwing them. And they're starting to hit cars. They're starting to hit people that are walking by. They're having rock fights, they're kids. I mean, there's no harm. I mean, they're harming each other, but, it's
We'll
starting to
try to
damage
get an answer
property.
for you.
That and the property behind Pico. Do we know who owns that property? Is it the borough or Pico? Because I keep hearing different things. You ask Pico, Pico says the borough. You ask borough, the borough says Pico. Do we have any idea who owns that?
We'll try to get that answer for you.
Because there's no drainage,
Okay.
and it's just filled with trash, debris. That's the only drainage that we've had that used to run down Linden Street, back through the electric company, and all that water, underneath of all that, there's a drain that runs back to Otter Creek, but there's no way for the water to get there, and it takes hours upon hours upon hours for it to finally seep through the ground, and then the water is done.
All right.
So, I mean, if we can just check up on that, and,
We'll get back to you in writing.
cool, all right, thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Back this way, don't worry about it.
Hi, my name's Bridget Callahan. I live on Buckley Street. I want to come up here and talk about a parking issue. I know parking seems to be a hot commodity town-wide, but I want to cite a specific example tonight, and that would be mainly on Buckley Street, my street. There is a lot that's on Plum and Ray Street, and a lot of the residents across the street from me that live, it would be before you hit that block of Plum, they park back there. And right now, it's getting really rutted. When it rains, it gets muddy. But I was wondering if there's a way we could put in, as people would refer to it, as pocket parking. That way, just blacktop it and put some lines so that people can park, safely there, and also be able to utilize the plot of ground to the best of our ability. And I was wondering, does the borough own that ground? Because from what I know, I think we do upkeep it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, let's check into it, and Bridget, we'll get back to you by the end of the week.
Thank you. I also have one other thing.
Go ahead.
I touched on it last month, a dumping ground. I found another one, and at this time, it's at the end of Clymer. It's roofing material. I do have some pictures, Jim, I wanted to email you in case you do need them, but it's a smaller area than the other one I touched on, but it looks like someone moved their spot, so.
Moved from your area to the end of...
Most likely, yes.
Yeah,
So
I
if
have
that
that
could,
here.
if the borough workers could address that, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Right side, any?
My name is Nancy Abate. I live on East Circle. I'm here because I understand we're going to address the Conrail situation tonight. So I'm here to speak on behalf of my own personal opinion in regards to this, that the diesel fumes, the banging of the cars in the middle of the night, the vibration from the train engines that sit right in back of my home. There are nights I come home from work at dinner time, I have that engine sitting there, I can't even sit and enjoy my dinner because of the vibrations and the fumes, and in the middle of the night, the banging of the cars are enough to give you a heart attack.
It's bad.
It is terrible.
My son recorded it.
Well, I did present a petition with numerous signatures of people that are having the same problem that I am. They may not call and complain, they may not state, but we have people that live next door to us that have had their house up for sale for numerous months, and they've even addressed it, stating that, if people pull up and they see the home, they see these train cars sitting there, they don't want to even be bothered. My son has even looked at the property and thought, well, it's a good piece of property, it's available for sale, but who wants to live with that engine sitting in back of you all winter long? And then during the springtime, you cannot open your windows because of the diesel fumes. You don't know what you're breathing in. And I know I'm not the only one. I just
No,
wish
you're
that
not.
people would call and be as much of an advocate against this as I am. But I just wanted to say my own...
Thanks. Let me just update you on this whole, and I know Councilman Pez and Collin probably want to speak on it, but from my own experience, We had a meeting here about a year ago with Councilman Cullen, Councilman Pezzett, our solicitor, borough manager, Merle Winslow, our emergency management coordinator. We brought them in, and we read them the riot act. We did everything we can. Merle photographed from here to where, Marsville, Merle, where they're coming out of. And it was a good meeting. At the end of the meeting, we talked about kids not being able to sleep at night, that had to get up and go to school in the morning. And they seemed pretty like they were going to take care of things. And it did stop for a little bit.
It was alleviated for quite a while.
Over the last 3-4 months, or even a little bit long, it's got worse than it's ever been.
It seems like as soon as somebody puts a complaint in or files a complaint, that they come back strong with a vengeance. Like they'll blow the horns in the middle of the night. And I don't mean just toot, 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 I mean horns.
I know that Greg and Lorraine has asked the manager to contact Congressman Fitzpatrick, any agency that we need to contact to bring to a meeting and either put this to rest, or we're going to have to start citing them. And we told them that at the meeting. They said you could cite us, we're a utility company, we could do what we want. Well, I don't believe that. So, I mean, Greg, you and Lorraine can, I just wanted to give her a little background of...
Don't mind us jumping in at this point in time. I got a few emails at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I know Lorraine did as well, just to make the point that in case anyone is insinuating that this isn't the problem that some people think it is, I'm not able to sleep right now, and I have to get up in 5 hours because I can't sleep because my house is vibrating. To me, it's outrageous that there are some people, first of all, it's outrageous what they're doing. And then second of all, there are some people that are making the insinuation that it's not that big of a deal. So I think it's really important that I'm very glad that you're here, because I know Lorraine feels the same way, that it's really important that people know that this is a really, really big deal. And there are people out there that are insinuating that it's not. And that you live near a railroad track, so deal with it. This is not that kind of issue. We all know, we live in a town where there's a railroad. We all know that trains go by at night, and we're all used to it. And probably you guys more than anybody else.
Yes, we are.
But this is a much different thing. And Lorraine can talk about the fumes and the noise.
That's a carcinogenic. I mean,
Yes.
this is a serious problem.
Yes.
And they need to move it, and we asked Merle to come here tonight because he has some ideas about it. But, I lived on Mansion Street, which is right near the railroad.
Right.
And we got used to it. That sound that you're listening to at night, no one can get used to. And the fact that you have to get up for work in the morning and your kids have to go to school in the morning, it's a disgrace. I'm appalled.
Well, my daughter did email Greg.
Yeah.
She had worked an 8-hour shift at her day job. She came home, ate her dinner, went to college, her classes, didn't get in until 10 o'clock at night, did her homework, went to bed, and as soon as she's trying to go to sleep, and she's in the front of the house, and she can feel the vibration and the horns blowing and the
Now, I've
banging
been hearing
of
the horns
carts.
blowing from Wilson Avenue. And I think that's a different thing that we found out because of the death.
It's not Amtrak horns.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay, because I heard it, woke me up. I sat right up in bed. I was like, what the? So I can't even imagine what you're doing, dealing with.
Have these horns, and I'm telling you, I think they come back with a vengeance, and I'm almost...
Shame.
It is. And there's other residents here that have come to support me.
Yeah.
If we need
I
additional information, with
I can
people...
tell you that I was out there one night 11 o'clock, one night 12 o'clock, and one night 1:30 in the morning. And I literally got into an argument with the people that were working when they were changing the ties and the tracks.
You?
Because no, I didn't. My daughter called me. The kids, woke the kids up. I mean, she had to get up for school in the morning, my son. So it's a major problem in that area. And you're talking to people that really don't care what you have to say or what you do, and they just feel they're above the law. But I can't go build a house 1 o'clock in the morning.
Nope.
PICO doesn't come and start jackhammering the street 1 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know where it's written that they have a right to work moving these trains. And it's not the High Lines.
No.
It's the off-track. They're taking these trains and they're backing them up and they're banging them into one another. Then they're pulling them down, correct me if I'm wrong, Merle. They're pulling them down, then they're bringing them on the other side of the High Lines, and they're bringing them back into the lumberyard places
Can
like
we
that.
let Merle talk, because we did ask him to come here? I would appreciate it if he...
I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to
knows
speak
extensive-
after Merle,
Merle
or...
could,
or
I
that's
want
why-
you,
Spoken with him
let
extensively.
know where we're at.
We're a loose group, you
Do you
can talk
mind?
anytime.
Not at all.
I mean, he's like an
Not-
expert on this, so I would appreciate
Merle and I
if
have had
he
very
could
many
speak.
conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I didn't know Nancy until the train incident started. I got to know her really well over the time period. This all started back in February 27th of 2012. And just to give you an idea, you mentioned the lumber yard. We had rail cars come in with steel on that goes to A.B. Murray's old building on the other side of Green Lane. And they used to just truck those steel coils in there. But when they found out they had rail service available, now they bring them in by rail. There's a few lumberyard cars that come in and out. There used to be the Roman Hawes tankers are in there. But since we had the meeting back in May of 2012, we sent a letter out to Amtrak, and one of the things we asked them, or our request was to not put the tank cars in the yard. Since then, there's been very few, if any, go into the yard. I think they're taking them now directly down to Dow and putting them into their yard. But we only have one customer that's in the borough that these rail cars go to. All the other ones are in Bristol Township. The steel company is on the other side of Green Lane, that's in the township. Dow is down in Croydon, that's in the township. And anything else goes out to the railroad, to the airport industrial park. Very few of those cars go out. So they are essentially bringing the cars down from Morrisville, which has a huge yard that they can separate the cars, put the trains together as per customer, so that they don't have to do it here. Why they need to do it here, I don't know. The steel cars have dome covers on them, which they protect the finished rolls that are inside. So that they lift these covers off to get the steel coils out. But the coils just sit on top of basically a flat car with a carve-out in it that they put the coil into. So when they're moving these coils around, these domes, when they hit another car, they shift and they scrape on top of the car itself. That's what makes a lot of the noise. The other cars that are there are the box cars. They have wood in. They go to the lumber yard. And then they have a few flat cars there that have wood on. But 90% of those cars that are in that yard don't go to Bristol customers. They're going to the township. They have a two-rail spur at the steel company on the other side. I met with Phil DeLizzi, who is the Morrisville track yard master. And I explained to him that I didn't see any reason why these trains, they have an engine on one end and an engine on the other, that they use what they call a push-pull movement. If they have a customer on one side of the track, the one engine pushes the cars in. If they have it on the other side, the other car pushes it. They break the engines off. But they break time, or they have to wait for the switches to clear, and that's done through New York. It used to be they had a person that worked at the Grundy Tower switch building up there on the other side of Green Lane. That's no more. So when they need a switch to get from one side to the other side, they have to call New York by radio, and then they give them the permission, and they give them the green light on the switch, and then that's when they make the crossover. But they've had instances where they get a train that's not ready to go back yet. They pull it in the yard, and they sit there and they idle, and that's what's been happening in back by Nancy's house. There's nobody in the engine. The guy leaves and probably goes down to the other end to talk to the other guy until they get permission to leave, and then they reverse their roles and go back in the other train. But up until that time, they sit there, and if you go up there when the trains are there, and you can tell, you can just stand there, you can feel the vibration under your feet, even in the street. You can smell the diesel fumes, which everybody knows diesel fumes are carcinogenic by the American Cancer Association, you're not supposed to be breathing that kind of stuff, but you can smell that. We've gotten calls for the fumes. Mr. Dillon's been up there when I wasn't available for fume calls. He got out of his car and he said it was sickening. He said it was just terrible. He lost his breath for a short period of time. And these are the things that they need to address, even though these engines may be equipped with things like you have on your car for the catalytic converter, they're required, but the fumes are still there. So we're hoping that we can get another meeting, even if we can get the congressman to come out and see what can be done. We had a meeting back last year or 2 years ago about the fence issue, and Amtrak came out and told us that they had a document from the Department of Homeland Security that they had to put this fence up. Mr. Salerno challenged them on the document, and they couldn't produce it because they didn't have one, and they had to come back and tell us that. So if they're saying now that they can do this and, it's by some documentation, we're going to ask to see it. I doubt if we're going to see anything. But there's no reason why. I talked to Phil DeLizzi that they can't put that diesel train on the other side of Green Lane, on the other side of the underpass, where it's in Bristol Township, it's in an industrial area, there's no residents around, it can smoke, it can do anything it wants over there, it's not going to affect our residents in the Harriman section. So,
I think we need to get a meeting set up. I mean, this isn't something that they've been on this for a long time, both of them. And like I said, we had a meeting, we thought it was over with, and it seems like it's starting up, and like she said, sometimes they just, when you complain, they want to make things worse, but this town and this council is not going to take this lightly. Something's going to be done.
right. Well, this kind of operation used to be done in the old Harriman Freight Yard, and it was closed in the early 1980s. And the ground was sold to the borough, which is now our Spurline Park, and the tracks were taken out. And the borough ended an era of leaking chemical cars, boxcar fires, road crossing derailments, and plain public nuisance from noise, stinking chemical cars, and the danger of school children crossing the ground level tracks. Why this section of that yard was left, nobody knows.
And why are they on this side when everything's going to the right side?
Well, I think it was all incorporated into that old yard that was taken out, but they stopped at a certain point figuring that they still had some freight people up this end of the township, and that they may be able to put these cars in there. And when I mentioned this to Phil about putting it over on the other side of Green Lane, that was happening for a while. And the reason that they tell us that the engines had to continue to run in the winter was if they shut them off, they have a hard time, even if they can get them started again because of the cold weather. It's a diesel and everything, the fuel might gel or you may have a problem or whatever with it. But this time of the year, there's no excuse. They could turn the engines off and let them sit there. Then there wouldn't be a problem with that, but they're not doing that. They're just doing what they want to do.
Phil's address and have Ray, Nancy, and Greg go there with a couple of my generators and start them up and let them run in their driveway, see how they like it. All right, just so you know, Nance, we're going to definitely stay on top of this. They're not going to let it go until something's done. And if there's a meeting with Conrail and our congressman and our state senator, and we're going to try to get Galloway here also, we'll notify you. I think they should hear from some of the residents of Harriman.
There's plenty of residents that'll come
Right.
in
Good.
and
That's
speak their
fine.
minds.
I'll have Lorraine and Greg contact you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, Earl, thanks.
All right, I just have two other brief things. The first one is we got the green light on the install of the new flapper that's going to go on the piping system that drains the parking lot from Mill Street. And we got a grant for that for $22,464 from FEMA after we had Hurricane Irene. So that install is in the works. And we just finished up with the Hurricane Sandy. David Serrato, the FEMA project specialist, stopped in here last week, and I signed off on the claim for Hurricane Sandy. Personally, I'd like to thank Angie Incolingo, Marie Fields, George Waldron, Tom Wallach, and Paul Yezzi for the time that they spent gathering the information that we submitted for the reimbursement. We got paid for everything that we were entitled to under FEMA's guidelines, and after several meetings and much paperwork, the forms were submitted, and we were funded at 75% federal, 25% state, for a total of $109,487.88. This included the storm cleanup, the labor and equipment costs, repairs to our sewer plant, wharf roof replacement, and the contractor assistance from the tree cleanup. Everybody did an outstanding job for our town.
I can tell you what, Merle, if it wasn't for you, a lot of that wouldn't have been collected, so you did a great job. Okay, anybody else in the public on either side before I end public participation? Mr. Peasant, I didn't think...
Good evening. I'll be brief. Before I begin, I have a question. Am I the only person in the room that sees ducks on everyone's desk?
Ducks.
You see ducks?
Okay, whatever it is, you save
I
it
only
for...
want to know why his duck is bigger than my duck.
Big duck. It's a big duck.
That's my question.
Oh my God, why does he have a big duck?
I didn't put him there, so I don't know.
The rain.
Okay.
Here.
I want to give you a brief economic development activity update. I want to start, though, by thanking Harb again. As Robin said, it's a very difficult job, and it's predominantly an advisory job. But I just want to make sure, and when we issue our final report, this will be in there, that this idea of rendering advisory assistance for architectural work should permeate the entire town. When I look at what we call the Jefferson Land Association, the homes on Mansion Street, Jefferson Avenue, parts of Beaver Street, we put some of those homes in our marketing video that we made a year or so ago. Beautiful row homes, just simple row homes, beautifully maintained. Connie Sullivan's home, Bob Fate's home, very nice. And there's no reason why every one of those homes with that kind of architectural style throughout town, in the lower end of Jefferson Avenue, along Pond Street, couldn't look the same with some support and assistance from the design. Just when you go in for a building permit, to have somebody say, this is what some of the homes in this district look like, and this is what you could do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Couple of things. Sunday we had the car show. The the Bristol Business Association sponsored the car show and did an outstanding job. And I want to make sure everyone knows that the Bucks County Courier-Times gave us front page coverage for that event. It was in today's paper. It was very nice. And on that point, I know there was a time several years ago when the perception was that the Courier didn't take a strong interest in Bristol Borough. I think that's changed dramatically. I think we need to take another look. We've gotten some very good, positive coverage of our events, and we hope to provide more events, so that kind of coverage will continue. And the Bucks County...
That's because of Hema.
Well, okay.
Because of Hema. Thank you,
And Hema has a couple bosses. And the Bucks County Advance also does a very good job. And I want to reiterate that some people say, we don't even have the Bristol Pilot anymore. Now it's the Bucks County Advance. The good thing about that is we still get our 3, 4, 5 pages of information, but now it goes out to the county. So when we're doing good things in Bristol Borough, people in Newtown and Langhorne and other places get to see it. And that's kind of the notoriety we want. I was struck at the car show by one of the things that we're going to be working on, and we talked about it before. We need a real functioning electronic community calendar. What we want to be able to do, when we bring people to town for the car show, we ought to be able to hand them a document that says, these are the other wonderful things we're going to be doing all year long. This is when our doo-wop is, when our tree lighting is, and all the other events we have planned, when the Taste of Two Cities is, and we all do that, and we all cross-market. So that's very important. I know some people made noble attempts in the past to make a calendar like that, and it's a lot of work. But if we do it electronically, which some people in our committee believe is the better way to go, where the organization feeds in its own information, you don't have to go out and seek it from them, and then someone administers it and tweaks it, and we might have to keep a bake sale out, put the big things in, and we think that's going to help a lot. Speaking of the business association that sponsored the car show, I was invited to visit their monthly meeting or weekly luncheon, whatever it was, at the King George. And I was very happy to see that the group seems to have a renewed vitality. There were 25 business owners at the luncheon. They said they have 66 members now, and there were a lot of new faces around the table, and there was a lot of energy. Steve Carletto is the president, and a lot of positive things were being discussed. I took the opportunity to share with them some of the things that residents share with me and my committee, and that is, how about doing a little bit on your own? How about painting your storefront, sweeping in front of the store, even if it's not your own storefront? You know, you're a renter, so what? If the landlord won't do it, you do it, spruce it up. And we hope to see some changes along that line during the month of May on Mill Street. And I think if the residents see that happening, it's kind of a reciprocal thing. We see them doing good things, residents will want more to support and participate. One more thing about Mill Street, Lynn Bush of the Bucks County Planning Commission has made arrangements with Mr. Stephen Barth. Steve Barth is a Main Street consultant. He was responsible for the revitalization of Hatboro. The Hatboro Business District was kind of sleepy, kind of sluggish, and they've experienced a pretty significant transformation. He is now in Percy doing the same thing, and Lynn has made arrangements for him to come here free of charge, just to walk the street later this month with some of our committee members, stop in and see some of the shop owners, and then at a subsequent meeting, we could pick his brain a little bit about what he sees, what visions he has, and what things we could be doing. As we said all along, we wanted to learn from the people that already had success. That's why we brought Mayor Malley here from Collingswood last year, and we'll continue to bring people here and pick their brain. We'll steal from the best. If they have good ideas, we want to take them. Also, committee member Joanna Schneider from National Penn Bank and I have been invited to make a presentation before the Community Action Committee of Dow Chemical. And I think, Robin, you've probably been there, you know some of those people, and Betty. The committee makes grants to worthy projects and is interested in hearing about what we're trying to do. Now, nobody's talking any money yet, but the idea is if we go there, let them know what we're trying to do, let them know there's a climate here and there's an energy here behind things, it could reap rewards in the future. So it doesn't hurt. On that point, the council's done an outstanding job in getting state grants, federal grants, and hope you continue to do so. There's a lot of private money out there, and so I'm told. And I think at some point we need to meet with the solicitor and make a decision about whether or not an economic development committee should be a nonprofit 501, where it could go out and seek funding from foundations or corporations, or whether it's better to do it through the government. And I don't have a preference, and I don't know what's most advantageous, but I think we should discuss that. Again, along the idea of grants, Joanna Schneider wants us to go to Allentown, where she said there was a 7-block area that was totally deteriorated. And through facade grants provided by, I wanted to get Bruce Agabuchi before he left and say, you know, you did a great job here, how about giving us some money? Because when banks invest in their community, the community develops, it makes property values go up, it helps business, it's a reciprocal thing. So she wants us to see what facade grants provided by private businesses and banks in the Allentown area did to revitalize this 7-block area. She said it's beautiful and it's a remarkable transformation. Almost finished. The idea of volunteers. We can't do, there's so many good ideas are flooding in. We can't do them all. We need volunteers. And to do it right, and you know what, I came across a brochure. Actually, I got it for Jim Dillon because he wants to fix that sign, the sign in front of the lagoon. We found the brochure that we put out when we did the lagoon. I just want to make sure everyone in the borough remembers. What was it, 1993 or 1996? We emptied that lagoon, dug up the entire bed, laid a clay liner all through the lagoon and the canal that runs along the Grundy Commons. It was all the cement wall was done new. Everything was donated. Waste Management donated the clay. Waste Management dragged away the other stuff. The operating engineers came in and moved the dirt. The cement masons came in and did the cement work. It was just a tremendous community project done by volunteers. Businesses donated food. It was great. And the idea, that's what volunteers can do. So what we want to do, with your permission, is put a volunteer form on the website. And what we want to do is ask people to tell us, what are your skills? And you don't have to have skills. You might be willing to pick grass, you pick weeds. But what are your skills? Can you do graphic design? Can you do spreadsheets? Can you do word processing? What are your skills? What are your interests and how much time can you invest? And we want to match that with a job we have, put the two together and let somebody run with it. So we think that's very important. We think it's extremely important to remain positive. I was talking to Bruce out in the hall and Gene, and they said, when you want investors to come to town, you need a positive climate. Investors want to know that government is stable, that government is working towards a goal, that the people are tuned in and on the same page, and that's when an investor is willing to come in and take a risk. So that's what we're trying to do. We have a Taste of Two Cities coming up on June 1st. The 13 restaurants between Bristol and Burlington. I'll tell you more about that next week because I'm going too long, but there's a lot more to report on. Thank you again for your continued support, and we'll keep working, okay?
Thank you. This has become Bill's full-time job.
The pay's great.
Yeah, the benefits are amazing.
All right, so anybody else, that ends public participation? Okay, Mr. Devine, what do you have?
The only thing I got a couple things I wanted to bring up. The first one was about the baseball field, and I see we have a discussion for informational item for, I guess we're going to discuss the Jefferson Avenue top lot. Is that the one at the baseball field, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. And I see that Mr. Dillon on that memo. Could you let me know what that memo is telling us? Is that 3 different options that we have?
They were the 3 different quotes that I obtained for putting up a 16-foot high chain link fence, and another one was 12-foot high chain link fence, and the other one was 8-foot high netting, which would be 4 feet above the fence, the existing fence that's there. Now, the 188 feet, you divide it by 2, so it'll be 94 feet on one side and 94 feet on the other side. Basically, the dimensions of the existing playground.
Okay. So, with that said, I mean, I just want to see who is in agreement. I would like to make a motion to put on for Monday's agenda to have, to do the 16-foot high chain link fence for $17,950 over at the baseball field, which would be a split. The only thing I would ask, Mr. Dillon, I don't know if you're sure about this at the moment, but can we make that the chain link fence, they have like a rubberized chain link that has smaller gaps so kids can't climb up the fence like a regular chain link fence. Kids can get their toes and they climb the fence, but they have ones that have smaller gaps in between each spot. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. You know what I'm talking about?
No, if that's what council wants, I'd have to go out and get another quote on that.
Okay.
So, just so I understand, then, we're going to put this on the agenda to vote for Monday night.
No, because it's not rubberized, right?
So you're comfortable with 16 feet is the right height, nobody's going to get hit with a ball?
Well, I think that it's something that we're showing, it's doing 2 things. I think that we're showing the people in the community that we want to keep the playground there, and also we're showing that we want to take the responsibility to make sure no kids are going to get hit. Just like just so everybody knows, the playground was closed on opening day because on opening day there was a child that was almost hit in the face with a with a softball from a home run on the first day. So I just thought that it was in the best interest that Pat and I, who's the other North Ward councilman, that we shut that playground down. And it's tough for the kids that are playing there and the parents that are watching the game, but just the safety aspect of it, it had to be done. And, I want to move it as quick as possible, and, I think, I don't want to delay it anymore, but the 16-foot high fence, I think, is something that is fair, and it's showing that, we are taking precautions to protect kids playing on that, on that playground, especially during games when they're going on. So Yeah, I would be comfortable with the 16-foot high fence on the agenda for Monday.
Can I make a comment? I'm not, I'm not against anything for the safety of the kids in Bristol or anywhere else, as a matter of fact, but I think we need more than just a cost. I would like to know, like, 16 feet, like, is it just going to go straight up, or I don't know how this is going to be put up. I'm wondering, because I've been to many, many, many facilities with my daughter who plays, and a lot of them are those netting ones where the ball gets hit, and it, really just rolls off. That seems like pretty
The
interesting.
original, just let me back up so everybody understands. A month or so ago, we had a proposal on the floor to put up a 12-foot high chain link fence, which was on a total 16 feet. So it was 12 feet, and the fence that was there was going to end up about 16 feet high. There was a discussion on the floor, and I'm not going to get into it tonight, that we tabled that motion because the statement that was made, we wanted to make somebody to sign off on this, that no kid will be guaranteed to get hit with a baseball. Then a week went by, Mr. Devine sent an email to the borough manager from him and Mr. Sabatini ordering that the playground be closed immediately for the safety of the children. The next morning, Mr. Dillon emailed George Waldron. They took the swings down. They put tape up around the playground and barricaded it. Since then, they've been out there 3 or 4 times to keep barricading. It just doesn't work because the kids are using it anyway. Mr. Lally, who coaches the girls softball team, sent an email to Mr. Dillon. I don't know, does council have that email? The other day, that said he's really opposed to putting any fence up because he's been coaching there for many, many years. And as of today, the email that was sent, there were 5 home runs hit, or 3 home runs hit, none of them to left field. That doesn't make it right where you can't hit a ball to left field, God forbid, and the kid can get hurt. Also, our Public Works Director had signs made. Do we have any of them signs that...
I asked him to bring one up, yeah, if you want me to get it.
I'll let Jim get that sign. Because Mr. Lally feels you're taking away the thrill of a kid that could hit a home run to the ball. He understands the safety of the children, but he said also that for the amount of years he's coaching and for the amount of home runs that have been hit, he would rather see the fence not go up. The other thing is, do we put a fence on the Little League field, or do we put a fence just on the softball field?
So is the fence going to go on the field or over I'm
Going
totally
to
confused.
continue from where the fence is now, up 16 feet high. That's Tony's recommendation.
What I was taught, I was under the impression, when you're saying 16 feet, I don't want to create another problem where kids are hitting home runs. I mean, and not being able to hit home runs because the fence is so high, like the Green Monster. I was picturing it as a breezeway fence that would be, like a foot in or a foot, a couple feet past the outfield, the home run fence, and it would go up that way. So that way it won't interfere with kids hitting home runs, but it would protect the kids, and people could still walk by and, and still be able to watch their kids and do that type of thing. I wasn't talking about extending the actual home run fence to,
See how I'm confused, I don't know where.
Right.
Yeah, and can I ask, where did we come up with the 16 feet? Who made that recommendation?
Well-
Was that an engineer? Was that...
No, what happened was this, and if it was brought up from the beginning, we wouldn't even have to, go as far as we did with it, but there's no specific guidelines.
I was here for that whole conversation.
Robin, that way I can tell you. You're asking a question, I want to give you the answer.
I'm sorry,
So there is
Tony.
no specific guidelines.
I'm sorry, Tony.
There's no specific guidelines for playgrounds at baseball fields. So if the engineer would have said that from the beginning, which we would have known, we could have handled it, we could have handled it a month ago. But at that time, I wasn't made aware of it. I had to find out on my own that there was no specific requirements in regards to that situation. So now I found out that since there are no requirements, I talked to there's a person, I gotta get her name, but in northern Iowa, who runs the whole, she runs the whole, no, not Little League, it's for playground safety. And we talked, and she said, really, I would have never somebody should have never put a playground in between two baseball fields. But if you're going to, you have to make it high enough, and, and I asked her, I said, well, how high would you go? And she says, I mean, there's not a specific number, but if you do, you gotta go at least 15 feet high. That was the number that she threw out.
Had that a month ago on the agenda to go that high.
No, but we had that.
Let me just, Mrs. Collin, go ahead.
We have two guys here that used to run Little League, two guys sitting next to each other. I'm curious as to what you think about, like, the netting versus the
That's nice.
chain link. Would you mind getting up and talking about it, or are you opposed to that? Can you get up?
I don't have enough background about it
Okay.
to discuss it.
I understand.
I mean, this, Tony, this sign was made, the borough had these made prior to us when you ordered to close it. And it just tells you the ages, I can't even see this.
Supervision.
Let me put my
Beware
glasses
of
on.
foul balls hitting the area.
Right. So this, we were going to put these up and no fence, figuring, you know what? I think it'd be sufficient, but I'm not opposed to supporting a fence. I just don't want to spend $18,000 and next week somebody hits a ball over the 16-foot fence and we got to rip this down and start over. That's the only thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
If we know 16's the height, I'll vote for it.
Right.
But I don't know that.
Right, but what we're saying is this, there are no specific requirements.
Oh, I
So
know
the
that.
thing and a sign like that is going to be something that's not going to protect us because the kids that are playing on it, they're at the age they can't even read. And their parents aren't,
They can't read, their parents should be with them.
but we know for a fact that they're not, we watched it.
So they're sending little kids there without supervision? Really?
I'd certainly agree with a lot of what Ralph, and of course, I am with Tony as far as concerns are concerned, safety concerns.
Can I get some order, please?
Ralph, I'm trying to get them to be quiet because I can't hear
No, I'm
anybody
asking
saying.
for order.
Yeah, but you're looking at me.
Anyway, what I was saying was that certainly safety first, and I think all of us agree with Tony on that. But what I'm really concerned with is that we have one quote here that is $18,000. And I know we're all concerned about the budget as well. Safety over budget, of course, without a doubt. But we have one quote here that's $18,000. We have another quote that is $6,500. That's a substantial difference. One is 12 feet, the other is 16 feet. And I just need some evidence to tell me that the 12 feet is not going to be as good as the 16 feet to spend an extra $11,000. I need that evidence. And I feel we had an engineer that stood here and told us. Now, I know your stance on our engineer, and you just don't trust him, and that's totally your fault.
No, I mean, it's not to trust anybody. To me, it's just common sense. Just as a common sense as a parent, if there's a playground in between two home run fields, just like there's a woman from Middletown, I have the email that she sent me, is you're sitting there, your kid almost gets hit in the face with a softball, that's a home run. So the engineer that told me it's okay to have it there, right, my common sense as a parent says it's not smart.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter, to me, it doesn't matter that an engineer says it's okay. To me, if common sense says it isn't, I want to get a second opinion.
But before I spend an extra $11,000, I need something that tells me that your 4 feet is better than, your 4 extra feet is
That's
better
what
than the
I'm
12
saying,
feet.
I would like to see more than just the price or an amount. Where is it exactly? Like Tony said, it wasn't supposed to be where he thought it was going to be. I'm not sure. And like, the price is so high considering the 12-inch high chain, like, I want to know, is it going to be around the plate? I don't know.
Right,
And I don't mean to sound stupid, I really
No,
don't.
it's not. I mean, that's a good point, because that is a big difference for 4 feet of chain link that you would have 11,000.
That's a lot of money.
What can we do? I mean, I would love to be able to go out with Mr. Dillon, whoever he's having over there, and anybody else that would be interested in checking it out, but to get an idea of what they do. But the bottom line is this. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is there are no specific requirements. That's it. There is none. So whoever says that they can put it there, they can do whatever they want because there's nothing there to say it. Common sense has to rule the day when we're talking about safety for kids. So 16 feet is, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an engineer, but I'm going to tell you 16 feet better than 12.
Can I ask, I'd really like my husband to speak, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, go to the podium.
I know I'm not the expert on this, but I agree with Mr. Lally. I feel that he doesn't want a fence shouldn't be up there to take the thrill of someone hitting a home run. And I also agree with Tony, if what he's trying to say is just like a breezeway, that the fence would be back further from the fence that exists there. Now, I don't know, or the fence, I don't know what your quote is or what you have, but I don't know if it's going all the way around the fields, but,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
another
like
question.
I said, I'm not the expert, but I would think your playground sitting there, if you were going to put a fence up, why don't you put like a fence, right on the side of the playground? I mean, like I said, I don't know what your quote has there, but
Only where the playground is?
where the playground is, like just put it,
Only where the
because if the ball's going to get hit that way, you would just have like a wall that way, and then if you want to put one where the boys' baseball field is, put one on that side.
I think that's what we're talking about, breezeway, is
Right.
having it on two sides. The 188 is going to be split in half, so the 94 feet or so is going to be split, and you'll be protected both ways.
So that's as long as the playground is, right?
That's what I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know what your quote is, but I mean, if you were really going to put a fence up, I mean, I think that would be probably an inexpensive way, but...
Now, the fence is going from the foul line in left field, on the fence that's there now, it's going to follow that towards center field, from left to center. On the Little League field, it's going from the foul line in right field, working to center field.
But right
We're
next,
talking about two different things.
but right next to
That's
the
what this
existing
quote's
fence.
for.
Okay.
That's what the quote
I'm trying to explain to you what the quote is for.
Ralph, how high is that fence now that's on the field?
Yeah.
Probably 4 foot.
The original, let's get back to the original quote. We were going to put up a 12-foot fence on the Little League field and the softball field originally. We didn't have anybody the engineer was here, nobody can guarantee the kid's safety, he'll never get hit with a ball. It got tabled. We're back to putting up, and I agree 100% with Mr. Pezzett, if we're going to spend $17,000 or $18,000 versus $6,500, who's guaranteeing that that 4 foot more is going to do anything? But what you need to understand, the fence is going on top of the existing fence.
Right, well then we got to
We're
change.
not creating breezeways, we're not creating, because then the borough workers can't get in there to clean the grass. You're going to end up with a trap between the two fences. Mr. Devine.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not what I was talking. I think we need to go look at that and make it a breezeway. I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way to figure out how we can accommodate both, the borough workers for cleaning, getting in there and cutting the grass, but also, I want to make sure that everything can work out. Kids will still be able to hit home runs without having to hit it over, the green monster. Kids will be protected, and it'll still look nice to have that breezeway. To put it on the existing fence, that's not really what I'm talking about.
So you're saying, so I understand, you want to put the fence along the playground, not at the baseball field?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
Well, that was never brought up at all, so we don't even need 188 feet of fence.
Tony, let me ask you this, you agree with this? We've got a 16-foot high quote, right? And that's on top of a 4-foot fence, and that's also closer to the field. You move back, if we were to even consider what you're saying, you move it back 5 feet. How many feet are in between the fence and the playground?
Not many.
35 feet.
So you move
No, maybe the softball field's like 4 feet maybe.
35 feet from...
I went out and looked at it. It's not no more than 8.
Okay, well, whatever, we'll get the exact number, whatever that is. You move it back off of that fence, you're gaining a lot of height because you're moving it back, so that the ball's obviously going to come down closer. So maybe you just go with the 12 feet around the playground, is what you're talking about.
Right, I understand. All I'm saying is this, if we are going to err, I'd rather err in the way of precaution. Right. Because here's the reason. I'm going to tell you the reason. If that kid, opening day, gets hit with a baseball or a softball in the head, I got an article right here. Foul baseball cracks the skull of 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl. What that's going to do to us, that 8,000, whatever we should have spent, if that saves us, right, it's going to save us in the long run, instead of having to deal with the situation. Number one, you got a kid that's seriously hurt or killed, or we're going to have a serious lawsuit that's going to cost way more than $8,000.
I think everybody agrees we want safety. I think that we can't just vote on something that's just like, let's do it.
I don't think anybody is. I said that's why we got to put it in a motion.
Right,
We'll put it in a
but I'm
motion.
saying we need more specific details, and I don't think that we have that right now.
Absolutely, okay.
Can't make a
Well,
motion with what we have, I don't think.
That's my point. I just want to...
all right, well, what I will do then is, I'm going to, I'll talk to the manager. Maybe Jim and I, we could set something up. Anybody that wants to come out after the meeting and we can get, an idea of how to set up, whoever did the quotes the first time. We can come out, look at it, and get another idea, and go look at it again next Monday.
Whatever council wants, I'll try and get the guy.
I just want to know, I just want somebody to tell me what you want to do so we can vote on and get it over with. I want to get the kids back on the playground and playing, because I think by that playground right now being closed, I don't think it needs to be closed. But Mr. Devine wanted it closed, I supported his decision, but I don't feel there's that much of a threat when you have Mr. Lally saying that there was no, when was the high school kids, you're saying someone got hit by a Little League game?
It was Buster's team. A girl on Buster's team hit a home run. It was opening day. I got 2 people that were sitting in the court.
No, not that I don't believe
No,
you.
I know, I'm just saying, it was
I'm
the
just
first
saying
day,
because...
and it was Buster's team, it wasn't even a high school team.
The thing I would be most comfortable in voting, and I don't want to speak for Robin and Betty and Lorraine, is that if the borough engineer gave us an actual recommendation of what the fence should be. That's what I'm...
Borough engineer said you don't need a fence.
Right, but let's assume that we all now think that a fence is needed, because that seems to be the only way we're going to get that thing opened up, is to do something
I
that
think the
provides...
field should be open tomorrow.
And here's my problem. My 6 children are grown. I spent the better part of my life on baseball fields with 4 sons, but not here in Bristol. I don't want to make this decision. I don't know enough about the fields. I'm not an expert. I don't want the liability.
Which is why I would like the engineer.
I don't want to vote
I don't
on
want to go out
something
there and
if the kid's
stand there and
skull gets
say,
cracked, and I could say I
right,
voted for this.
I
and it
was
should have
there,
been.
I thought this was going to work. I don't want anything to do with it. I'll vote on it as I believe it's correct after I get from a professional. It's been my premise since the beginning.
Can we get the engineer out there and say, we assume that right now council is trying to err on the side of safety? We understand your initial recommendation, and most of us agree with it, but we're going to be extra cautious, and what would be your recommendation for a fence that is off the fence so that Mike can still...
I still think if you put the yellow stripe on the fence, and there's a rule, I'm not an umpire, I don't know, and it's above that yellow line, they should consider it a home run. I mean, I don't know if they can give you that ruling, but I don't think...
Regina's saying yes.
I don't think the fence should be anywhere except continuation of the fence that's there.
Okay, which is fine.
That's just because if you move it against the hot lot or the playground that's there now, it doesn't serve any purpose. You might as well just go straight up like the Green Monster, put the yellow stripe on the bottom. If it's above there, it's home run. But the problem comes, who's saying it's high enough?
Right, well,
And are we going to waste $18,000 by removing this
Are we
fence?
going 16
and
feet
going
above
higher?
the original fence? I am so confused. Is that what we're doing, going 16 feet above the...
It says 16 foot high. I don't know if it's 16 feet above.
Well, I don't know.
What time does everybody get home? Is that,
I get home at 3.
3:30?
2:30.
3?
I'll be home at 3.
Maybe home by 3:30.
I'm not
That's-
going out there.
I'm not going.
I'm not going out there, so.
See if we can get Kurt to meet with Mr. Devine and whoever else this week, and let's see if we get out
The only
something.
thing I'm comfortable voting on is a recommendation from the engineer. And I know that he said...
Well, if he doesn't want to make a recommendation,
And I'm
I'm
not comfortable voting on it.
not going to vote either.
Well, here's the other thing, it's 8:15 and we're still on one issue. Can we move on to the next? We only have until 9 o'clock.
Can I ask council, does anybody have a problem with opening this up so the kids could start using it? Mr. Devine?
Yes, I absolutely do not, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to open it up.
Okay,
when
that's
we
fine.
know. It's just my opinion. You guys, I'm only one vote.
It's your ward, I want to support your decision. You want to keep it closed, we'll keep it closed.
Like I said, it doesn't make sense to open up when we know that there's a risk, especially to find out there were
Still have
5
kids
other...
playing there though, don't forget. And we tried to keep them off of there to everybody. But that's fine, leave the swings off and let it stay closed.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, we can have, are we going to be able to get an engineer out there, or can we just...
Unless you want to bring your guy. We're going to call Kurt tomorrow. We're going to ask Kurt if he would come out immediately and look at this to meet you there. If he says we don't want to get involved with it, then we either need to get the guy you spoke to or find another engineering firm that's willing to come out and give us advice.
It goes back to the same question. We're posing the same question. You're asking an engineer who said it's okay to come out, right? And there are no specific requirements. We just need to come up as a council something that we feel comfortable we're protecting the kids and we're protecting ourselves.
Tom, I'm a history teacher. He's an engineer. I don't know how to vote on that unless the engineer tells me.
Right, I know, but listen to what you're saying. You're saying an engineer, I just told you, there is no specific requirement. The reason why he said you don't need a fence, do you agree that you need a fence?
I think it might be a good precaution. I don't know
Do you agree that we need a fence?
I think it would be a good precaution.
All right, so we need a fence.
I mean, if that's what you want to call it, I think it would be a good, safe precaution. But the engineer is saying we don't need one. I mean, I just want to listen to what the engineer
Well, that's what I'm saying. The engineer already told us that we don't need a fence. That's what I'm trying to figure out. As just common sense wise, a kid almost got hit in the head with a baseball. Do we need a fence, or are we going to listen to, an engineer that says you don't?
That's why I said, assuming that we need a fence, let's listen to what the engineer says. Assuming we need one, I would like to listen to his recommendation on what kind of fence. That's what I would like to, or what size fence, whatever you want to call it.
Get back to my question so we can move on to something else.
You good?
If the borough engineer is not interested in taking this job on, do you have an engineer, or how do we move forward?
I mean, I'm only laughing because we're saying the same thing. We don't need an engineer because they're going to say the same thing. There are no specific requirements. If the engineer says that
There's got to be somebody that can tell you what size fence to put up.
I'm telling you.
If it's 50 feet.
I'm going to bring in a message from the authority on playground safety and issues from Northern Iowa. I'm going to bring that in.
Understand the point, we don't want to make...
Jim, all I want to be able to do, Jim, if we could get a fence person out there, right? Me, you, and the fence guy, whoever else wants to go out to look at it, get an idea, and then we'll come up with something more concrete to bring back to the council, and we can vote on it then. The other question I have is actually, again, for Mr. Dillon or Mr. Winslow, is on Pine Street, we have the Amtrak bridge. The metal, I know it's exposed, I know you guys are familiar, I mean, the metal, the barbs and stuff are exposed, but right now there's a strapping that's rusted and sticking out. It's definitely just a hazard for kids walking or just playing around. That's sticking out. I don't know if we can maybe cut that and maybe, sand it down, or I don't know what to do with it.
We'll have to get in touch with them. We
can't do anything?
touch any of their property.
Okay. And the last, actually I got two more things. The Route 13 project, what's happening now is the cars are getting backed up, so they're getting frustrated, and they're cutting down all the streets off of 13, and they're coming down one-way streets off the avenues, Mansion Street, I don't know if Gordon runs this way. No, Gordon goes this way. So all the one-way streets that are running towards Beaver Street, these trucks and cars alike, they're coming down. They don't even know it. So I don't know if we can get some signs maybe at the front of those streets while the people are turning in, just so they're aware of it. And the last thing is, the grant that we received for the docks, is this going to be a matching grant?
No.
Okay. That's it.
Lorraine?
Me? Say me?
Yes.
Okay. We're meeting next week for the third time with a potential buyer for the Mill Run facility. Greg and Ralph, Jim and I. And I believe our solicitor. So hopefully we'll be bringing that buyer to you next month, to the whole council. So let's keep our fingers crossed. It's a really good fit for us. It's going to be a nursing home facility, and they have some really good ideas. So we're pretty happy about that. There was a question about gutters not being cleaned properly by the street cleaner. So then I talked to Mr. Dillon about it, and he said that it went out for service and that it's in tip-top shape now, so things should be really clean. The gutters should be very clean. And also, I was asked where to dispose of televisions and electronics because you can't put it out to the trash anymore. And there is a place that is located right off of Green Lane, 416 Green Lane, Unit 5. It's the driveway that's located just past the Amish Market. The facility entrance faces the train tracks, and it's called Electronic Recycling, no, E-Waste Experts, I'm sorry, E-Waste Experts. So anybody that has any electronics, any televisions, or anything, computers, anything like that, you can send here. And I want to thank Maria for getting that for me. Let's see what else. Jim, how are we making out with the trash receptacles for the path near the river?
They were delivered late last week, and we're making modifications to them, and they should be in this week.
That's wonderful. Glad to hear it. And
Don't get me sick again.
That's right.
I'm just starting to feel better.
Temperature in here is no wonder.
very cold in here
It's
tonight.
freezing in here.
I wanted to ask the chief, we really are still having trouble on Farragut and Pond with speeding. It's horrible. I mean, I've been visiting a lot of homes, and they've been telling me that they just, is there something that we can come up with? Something else, some kind of resolution, or something you can think of to help us curb this problem?
I'll talk to Sergeant Fate. I know he was discussing putting that out, the speed display board at different locations, so maybe we can get it back out there again. And we had some, I believe we have written some tickets in that area.
And you should be able to write a lot of tickets in that area, a lot. I mean, maybe there's some other spots that you can to hide out at, or, I mean, you can make a ton of money right now if you know, it's pretty bad. And what else do I have? 1 second here. Oh, I wanted to thank George and his crew for keeping Mill Run clean. I appreciate with it sitting there and, you know, nothing going on, they've kept it very clean, and we really appreciate what they're doing. And for lighting the fountain blue last month for autism, I appreciate that. And let's see, trash cans are being left in the streets instead of being put up on the curb. Can a phone call be made to Mascaro to ask them to please?
Let me tell you about that, Lorraine, since you brought that up. Last week, they were all over South Ward. Recycle bins were in the street and trash cans. I notified the manager notified Mascara, and the 2 drivers that day were suspended for 1 week.
I appreciate that, because
They said it should never happen. Mascara said they won't tolerate that kind of misuse with the cans. They belong to put them back. So, Mr. Dillon, send them pictures.
thank you.
Both guys were suspended for 1 week.
You know, a car will hit it, and then your trash can's gone. You have to go out and buy a new one, so that's great. Thank you very much. I think I'm finished.
Mr. Petzer.
I just wanted to, again, congratulate the whole Raising the Bar group for another fun spotlight on Saturday night at Caesar's Restaurant. It was a fun, festive atmosphere for the Kentucky Derby, and place was packed once again. And it's really bringing a lot of positive energy to our restaurant community right now, and hopefully that will continue to grow. And even more exciting about events like this is the cross-section of people that you see there. People who were involved with politics who aren't anymore, people who are, from this organization or that group or that age or this age, Republicans, Democrats, all of the above. It's just, everyone is really unifying behind that positive energy and that positive message. And I really think that positivity does a lot for town. And you just really feel the energy in places like that, and it really, really is a nice thing to see. Also, I'm just going to ask you that if the solicitor could jump in here for a second. The good news is that we've seen some activity on Farragut Avenue. Quite frankly, I forget the address, the Donfrey property. In case people are confused, and just let the solicitor explain a little bit further. That property was purchased by the Donfrey property. So what's the address? You guys know the address off the top of your head?
1530.
1530. It's right at the end of Jackson Street, Jackson and Farragut. It looked like a war zone there for a little while, and the Donfrey group bought it, and they're going to be refurbishing it. But I just wanted to ask Mr. Salerno if he could just explain the process for how Donfrey came into that property.
Well, council voted to sell the property.
Right, I know, I'm just saying, if you could explain.
Council voted to sell the property at public sale, with the condition that, number one, it had to be a minimum of $20,000, and number two, that it had to remain a parking lot. It was advertised and went out for bid, and Mr. Donfrey, who owns the adjacent property, put in a bid for $20,000. And he had agreed that if he was the successful purchaser of the property, that he would agree to he would accept from the borough $20,000 to repair the damage to the wall to resolve that claim, okay? Remember, there was an outstanding claim from him against the borough for us to repair the wall because the borough had taken down the building some years ago.
Right.
So he purchased the property, and he signed an agreement on March 27th stating that within 6 months he would complete the wall. And he said he needed that much time, but because before he completed the wall, he wanted to renovate the parking lot. In fact, I think he put a notice out that no parking because he was going to fix the sidewalk, he was going to fix some of the holes, put some stone down. So he wants to fix the parking lot, and then he's going to start walking on the wall. So the borough now no longer owns the property, will be receiving taxes on it, and the $20,000 that the borough received for the property was used to satisfy the claim for the wall.
Right.
So hopefully before September, that parking lot and the wall will be completed.
And Councilwoman Conlon and I are very excited to see it. Just another thing, Farragut Avenue is slowly but steadily improving, and it's another small project that I think is going to make a big difference. If you're not familiar with what we're talking about, it almost looks like a gaping hole in a row of things. And Mr. Donfrey has already done some really nice stuff behind his building.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And he's getting moving on this. So I think that wall and that parking lot are going to end up looking really nice and really change the facade there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Eddie?
Just, again, on the Clymer, at the end of the Clymer Street, to see if we can have the guys go out there and clean it up and maybe put a no dumping sign back there. Even though it's probably the same people that were dumping behind the school and probably got scared and moved down the street, but I don't know what else to do. If you see somebody dumping or if you see something suspicious, please call the cops or take down the license plate. It's the only way we're going to get these, and I won't say what I want to say, people to stop dumping in our town. Again, I'd like to thank George and Mr. Dillon for the signs behind the 500 block of Pond Street. The people there were so happy. They got up, there were signs back there that said speed limit 15, and children at play. and I still would like to get prices on speed bumps. I know a lot of people have requested speed bumps in alleys. We can't put them in alleys, but this is not an alley. This is behind people's houses where they park, and the people are pulling out of the parking spots and flying, and there's little kids that are playing, and you don't really see them, and I'd hate to see something bad happen because of people that just don't want to listen. Also, Arnie, if we can get maybe a police officer to be on Market Street, they're speeding, I know the one second stop sign on Pond and Market, but people are just flying down that street. I don't know why. I mean, it's a one-way street, but when they come around Ratcliffe and they bend that bend right there, the tobacco store, they're flying like it's the highway. And some of the residents there that I spoke to recently are upset because their kids also play out front, and God forbid somebody gets hurt. Other than that, I have nothing else, and thank you.
Mrs. Trinnell.
I just have a question for Mr. Dillon. Mr. Dillon, as a courtesy, the borough puts up banners for organizations that are having activities in town. Do we store those banners? For each of the organizations, or do they take them themselves once they've been taken down?
I believe they take ownership of the banners. This year, we only had one place where we could install a banner, and that was broken, and George and the crew fixed that. And I heard something about the car show banner, and we were going to put it up, but nobody had it.
Well, that's what I'm referring to. I've heard some negative comments that we lost their banner, so I just want to make it clear.
Walden spoke to...
That we didn't lose their banner. We never had we would not take a banner of an organization and put it and store it for a year so we can put it up again at the beginning of the next year. So just to be clear, we didn't lose their banner. It wasn't our banner. We put it up as a courtesy to anybody who has a worthy project. So that's all I had.
Okay. I have a few things, but I'm not going to get into them tonight. We'll talk about it in June. But I want to mention one thing. It's called Congo Roof Company, and the guy that owns this is A. Brooks. It used to be Brooks Roofing, now it's Congo Roofing. What they're doing is they want to give a roof away to somebody that's a veteran that can't afford to put a roof on their home, that really can't afford it. None of this, well, I can't afford it, but I'm driving around in a brand-new car. They really take it seriously. I asked them if they would consider Bristol as part of this program, and they said yes. So what you would do is you either go online, if you know anybody that's a veteran that wants to fill out an application with Congo Roofing, they'll come in literally and put a whole new roof on your home. So they're hoping to get somebody from, I'm hoping, that we can get somebody from Bristol Borough, if anybody knows anybody that's really on hard times, that needs a roof put on, that this company will come in and do something in the borough. Mr. Devine?
Yeah, what's the website, Congo Roofing?
Right.
Or just type that in Google or something?
CongoRoofing.com.
And I know A. Brooks personally. He's a great guy. He's been in the roofing business forever. So
Yeah.
this is typical of something Abe would do. It's a great project.
They did, matter of fact, I was talking to them the other day, and there was a lady that her husband was paralyzed or whatever, and they were really on hard times, and they already did a roof, so they couldn't, the supply company, they only had enough shingles to do this one project, so they went and patched their roof for them for nothing, but now they were able to come in this year and put a whole new roof on her house. So it's a good program. Again, maybe I'll get the website sent here from Congo Roofing, and if somebody wants to call the borough, give me at least a half a day tomorrow to, get everything here to Marie or to the manager. But again, if you know somebody that, it's a good program. The other thing is, I like to talk about signage. I feel just as good as you. Signage in Bristol Borough. A lot of people, we live here and we know when the street sweeper's coming, but if you notice, a lot of the streets in town or missing street sweeper signs or no parking signs. There may be one in the middle of the block, there may be one in the beginning of the block. So people from out of town that come and visit and they park, they don't see a sign that says no parking. And this happened several times already where people got tickets. So I'd like council to think about it and maybe in June, come up with a program where we replace every sign, whether it's a no parking, no do not enter sign, that everything should be uniform, look the same, and start going in that direction where we take every street and put new signs up or whatever we got to do. But something nice looking that fits in with you. Maybe we get the Historic Architecture Review Board involved.
Oh, wait, Bill's got some money for signs.
Just so you know, that it's part of our plan, and there's grant money available for signage. I don't know if it's going to be as extensive as, no parking signs and things like that, but the idea of harmonious signs with a central theme is...
I could tell you on Lafayette Street, there's maybe one sign that says no parking, it's at the end of the street. So I think we need to look at every street, not just the South Ward, but every street in the borough and come up with at least 3 or 4 signs for the right side and left side of every street.
Yeah, I agree.
So
And it's funny, it's the kind of thing we don't notice, because we know not to
we
park
know not to
there.
park
We
on
don't-
Thursday
so-
and Friday, but
Yeah.
people that pull in, they don't know. I spoke at the Rotary meeting last month, and I'll get into details in June, how that went, and a couple other things that I think can wait for the June meeting, so that's all. Oh, I talked to BIU, our inspection department, and I know Mr. Pezza and Mrs. Cullen's been asking, and I know Betty called me twice on this about Paint Up, Fix Up Month, and they did agree, because last time we did it, they were a little upset over it. They did agree for May and June to be Paint Up, Fix Up Month. And what they're including in that is there will be no permit charge for residential permits for outside work that includes siding, roofing, sidewalks, and front alterations, although permits will be applied for and issued, but there will be no fee.
There you go.
So we're starting, they did it last year, we're going to do it again. If anybody wants to fix up
Great.
some things, it's free.
But they do have to apply for it.
Right.
Can't do the work without it, but there'll be no charge for facade work. Do you
What
have,
about
Mr.
this thing?
Dillon? Mr. Dillon will do it.
Okay.
At the June meeting, there'll be more information about the event.
Okay.
I thought by having the ducks out here, people will start getting
Asking questions.
interested, and so, in terms of Monday evening, we have an ordinance to adopt amendments to the zoning ordinance. You have a copy in your packet. There was a public hearing this evening at 6:30 on that, that's required. Also, Monday night, there'll be a motion to authorize advertisement of an ordinance to adopt the codification of the borough ordinances. Here's a copy of the existing one, and it's going to be a complete codification.
I'll read that up over the weekend.
Oh,
I don't think it's a codification, that complete codification's been done in the last 20 years. Something that we've been working on for the last 2 years, Maria and the solicitor and Sally. So we're about there. Also, in your packet, I'd like you to ratify the acceptance of Hudson Engineers' proposal dated April 22nd to conduct a hydrographic survey. They had the boat out there last Thursday, and that information we should be getting soon. Their preliminary response was that they don't expect to do much, if any dredging, so that hopefully, is a real good positive sign, in terms of keeping costs down. Also, I'm waiting for the Hudson Engineers' proposal for a geotechnical investigation and report. We should have that this week. It should be in your packet by Friday. And last but not least is Novacare land development expires May 14th. Sally did send the applicant a letter saying that council has to act that night, either to approve or reject it, or if we have a request for an extension, that will be placed before council. As of today, we've yet to receive a response.
Jim, real quick question on that. That's a mess over there. We have no idea what he's doing or when he intends to finish that up.
I met with him, I guess, about a month ago with the PennDOT engineers on site, with the borough engineer trying to answer some of his questions, and I thought he was going to proceed with applying for a permit. I think I heard it's in the works, so that, I don't know if he's officially applied or not.
I did.
Oh, good. No, Greg found out what...
Well, first of all, it's been something that we've been actively working on with the help of Jim. It's a very complex thing because PennDOT approvals are needed to get onto that road. And PennDOT, it can be a very bureaucratic and slow process, unfortunately. And our engineer was kind enough to go out and meet with the owner and explain to him exactly what that process looks like. And I was told by the owner literally 2 days ago that the wheels are in motion. Now, hopefully that means that the application is actually...
The wheels are... It's a nice term.
And I did also tell him, I know Sally sent out the official letter, but I also told him that he needs to apply for that extension, so it's in his court.
But we'll have that on the agenda Monday to vote.
Hope so. Otherwise, if you don't act, his project is deemed approved as...
No, we'll act.
What happens, I'm just curious, I don't know that we've ever been unanimous or had a vote that, what if we denied the extension? What happens then?
Well, we would have to deny him.
For the extension?
Council has to vote, and obviously there's not enough information there to approve it, so we'd be forced to deny.
And then he could always come back and refile.
Oh, okay.
Anything?
No.
Bobby?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Diane with that?
Adjourn.